Hello everyone, my name is Greg Ritchie and I'd like to talk to you today about distance learning with Impact K-5 Social Studies, specifically some opportunities that we can utilize within the online platform for Impact when we don't have the ability to be at school and utilize everything as we normally would from our classroom. So what I'm going to simply do is basically just give you an overview of the online platform, show you a couple quick tips over the next few minutes that might be of use and might be helpful for you as you teach and as your students continue to learn about K-5 social studies. All right, a couple things just to take notes of, and if you'd like to take a screenshot of this, I might suggest that. One is this: you should already have, probably, I would imagine you already do have your own logins, but in case you don't and you'd like to access a demo account that we have literally distributed across the nation, so realize a lot of teachers would have access to this, or a lot of potential teachers, potential customers would have access to this. This is a unique username and a login where they can go in and explore some of the content. This one might be more pertinent to you and you could potentially share with your students. We've heard from a lot of teachers that their students don't yet have their own unique usernames and passwords. That's fine. Maybe it's not a step that you've gotten to yet. If you'd still like your students to be able to access their student books or look at the ebook for any of the student resources, they could do that by looking at the demo student account. This is the username and this is the password in order to access that. And of course, that's the URL, the website that you would go to as well. I'm going to go in and just take a quick look at that to give you a quick little overview of that as we go here. So let me actually go to that right now. But before I go to the student one, actually, I wanted to show you the teacher account. So this is my own personal account. Much like you have your own teacher accounts, this is probably a similar view for you. So again, I'm just going to do a quick reminder, a quick overview of some content that you've got access to and quick ways that you can access it yourself as a teacher, and then assign it and put it in your students' accounts as well. All right. Now, if you're a teacher, you probably just have one of these books. I represent all the grades, so I'm just going to pick a grade. I'll go to grade 3, for instance, and I go in. This is my dashboard. We call this the dashboard, right? And then from here, I've got a really quick ability to launch what we call an ebook. All right. So if I wanted to launch my inquiry journal, for instance, I simply click on the button that I just clicked on. And this just gives me a chance to look at the ebook. There's nothing very interactive about this, but it's simply a representation, exact representation of what I would see in print. All right, a couple quick things here about functionality. You're looking at a particular page right here. If I want to turn the page, guess what? I hit the next arrow, and now I'm on the next page. All right, if I want to jump to a completely different section in this particular ebook, I click over here on the table of contents, open it up. Here's my table of contents. Let's go to chapter 4, lesson 1, and now I've jumped right there. All right. Now, if I'm looking at this, I might want to zoom it in a little bit. And so to zoom it in, you first click this button right here, which is switching to album mode, or what I call just one page mode. Now we're just going to look at a single page. And now that gives me the ability to zoom in as much as I want, and I can scroll down to look at that. All right. So just a quick little tip right there. Also, when you're looking, I'm going to go back out actually and look at the 2-page view. Also, you'll see this item right there, or that icon right there, where there's a voice that will then read that entire page to you. If instead you want to read at any point, or if you want to share this with your students as well, if they want just a portion of the page selected and read to them, they can certainly zoom in as I did earlier. They can highlight some text as I'm doing right here. And then when that is released, there's an audio button right here, and it will read that selected text. You can see there's some other little bits of functionality there as well. But I just thought that might be a nice tip. I'm going to close out of this window. Now watch what happens. I'm going to close this player right here. You can see my icon, mouse right there, and now I'm back at the dashboard. Because all I did there was I opened up one of these ebooks, it created a pop-up or an overlay window on top of that, and then I closed that, and now I'm back at my dashboard. I know that another way a lot of you access the content are through what we call landing pages. The landing pages are first accessed right here, or most easily accessed right from our dashboard. You can see this little arrow right here. Watch what happens when I click it. It drops down, and now I get a list of all the chapters. You can see that next to each one of those chapters, there's also a drop down, right? A little arrow. So now I drop that down, and now I see the various lessons in that. So I can go to a landing page for this lesson, or if I wanted to go to a landing page for a chapter, I click on that chapter right there. All right, so let's just look at this right here, that particular lesson right there. It's taking me to a landing page. Now I'm going to pause here because some of you might be going, what is a landing page? That's a new phrase and it could mean anything. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is as you're familiar with impact social studies, you know that one thing that's so cool about it is there's 3 different resources of content. And so when we put that into a digital environment, it needs to be obviously in one area. And we call that area the landing page. So this particular lesson, chapter 2, lesson 1 from grade 3, of course, I'm looking at a landing page, which is a blend and a cohesive collection of all the content from all of those resources. Now, big picture, I always like to start big picture right here. As we look at this, we can see 3 big headings: engage, investigate, I'm gonna close that arrow right there, and then report. You're gonna see this in every landing page. I'll just show you that right now. Let me go to another landing page. I'll go to my table of contents. I can click on that arrow. Let's go to this particular lesson. You'll see every lesson has this ability where we've broken the content and grouped it into these 3 categories: engage, investigate, if I close that arrow, you'll see it better, and report. All right, following that instructional inquiry pathway. All right, so just a couple things here. This is common sense. You're all such bright teachers that we get to work with. So just obviously collapse all. I can collapse them all, or expand all as I did a second ago. Here's all the different chunks from those resources, including the teacher's edition, that are part of this particular lesson. All right, so as I scroll down here, you'll see this. So I encourage you to maybe explore this on your own too. Take your time. If you're home from school this week, take some time and just become more familiar for that purpose alone with Impact Online. So I'm going to collapse all of them again. All right, and then I'm just going to point out something which you've probably already seen. Let me go back here to collapse all there. They're all collapsed. Now within each one of those big headings, we've got 3 subheadings, right? So it really is pretty easy. That ebook one, if I just start there, that always, again, is just a quick jump or a quick link to that ebook that matches engage. And if you're familiar with Impact, you know that the inquiry journal is our primary resource where students will engage. So that's just another way to launch the same ebook that I launched before. If I do it here from the Investigate, there's the Research Companion and there's the Explore magazine. All right, now what we've got in the other 2 categories are teacher e-presentation. Here's content for you that you might use in a presentation. If you're teaching or working from home, you might not use this content right now as you're teaching or directing your students from home, because this is more used in, as it says, an e-presentation. But feel free to click through those and look at those. I'm gonna leave that open. I'm gonna leave the ebook open so we can open all 3 subheadings here. And then I go to interactive impact. And these are resources that, again, you can use in your classroom within this launch presentation that you would use in order to take all the content that you want to use on that particular day of teaching and put it into an easily ready-made presentation that you just click through. This is more content here that you would do. These resources down here that are under interactive impact, are always going to be a little bit more interactive. They're always going to be things where maybe a student will write in a box to answer a question, or circle something, or use a little flip card, or things like that. I just encourage you, I don't want to make this video too long, but feel free to just explore some of that on your own, all right? Now, I'm gonna open those back up again. I didn't mean to close it, because on each one of these resources, you see 2 options that are marked with a checkbox. The first one is include in presentation. If you're teaching from home, we don't need to talk about that right now because this is probably an in-class presentation. But the other one is really important. It says add to student page. What this indicates is that if you already have students set up in classes, and you would find that and know that by looking right here where it says roster. I encourage you to go to your own accounts, look at roster, and you would know then if you have classes set up and if students have their own accounts, when that student in that class logs on to their Impact Online, they are going to see resources that are only ones there that you as a teacher have wanted them and designated for them to be able to view and see, which is so great because it gives you as a teacher power and control in what your students are learning, as opposed to them being able to watch every video and look at every lesson and take every test whenever they want, right? And then that wouldn't go at the pace that you would be guiding them through otherwise. So we put that control in there. So just be aware of that. You'll see a lot of these resources come predetermined. The default is that they're already added to the student page for that lesson because it's just core content. Most likely you're going to want to include it. There's that ebook, that's going to be on that student page. These e-presentation slides, those are more for you as a teacher, so we have not included them on the student page by default. If for some reason you want to, you can certainly check that box and make that happen. All right, so I hope that has been helpful as you think about more how to use Impact Online and specifically maybe using it remotely. There's an icon up here, there's a button that says preview the student page. This will give you just a quick glimpse of then what content the student has access to. It's like a summary of all the boxes that you've checked or dechecked or selected or deselected for the student to be able to see on their side. These are the ones that they're going to see. So it's a nice little way of looking at the summary. If I click these resources, nothing's going to happen and nothing is supposed to happen. Don't think anything is supposed to because we're not logged into a student account right now. All right, so I hope that has been helpful. I'm going to close that student preview. And what I'd like to do next is one thing. Actually, before I go to the student side, I was just going to show you a student page. I just want to give you one more little tip. Let me go back to the dashboard. I click that icon right there, that word that says dashboard, and guess what? Here I'm back on the dashboard. Just one more little tip for you. Be sure to remember that you can search for resources. If you're wanting to do just a little bit of teaching, you know you can't teach an entire lesson or do all the instruction that you want to from home these days, but you just want to show a video and you want to highlight a particular video that is in here, remember that you can always just search for resources. So if I search video, I type return, here's all these videos that you may or may not be aware of that are within this particular grade of impact. All sorts of different videos. Here's a chapter video, here's a lesson video, here's a 360 video. So check out things like that. Think about, hey, is this something that I want to direct my students to? Also, for you as a teacher, we've got professional development videos as well. Maybe this is something that your administration is asking you to work on as well. Here is some opportunities for you too. So click on those. You can learn more about what it means to analyze sources or a little bit about social emotional learning by an expert in the field there, or engagement or inquiry or dual language support, all sorts of things. All right, so let me do this. I'm gonna log out right there. I'm gonna quickly log onto that student account as well, just to give you a quick glimpse of what the student would see. And so for this one, I'm gonna put in Impact Student, I think was the username, and I think the password was MHE2020 social. Let's see if I'm right. Looks like I am, and I typed it right the first time. All right, so here's what your student would see. And remember, feel free to give this to your students if they yet don't have their own student accounts. If they don't, by the way, be sure to maybe have a priority to do that in the first few weeks after you're back in class, if that's something that's practical for you. All right, so let's go into grade 2 this time, all right? You'll notice we have a complete parallel course that's completely in Spanish. Feel free to check out that. That's called Impacto. But for now, let's just check out this Exploring Who We Are course. Here we are. This is the way it looks for a student. I always look, sometimes it'll launch to a different page. I like to always just go to home. So maybe that'll be the first tip that you give your students. And guess what they can do? They can open up the ebook of any of those 3 student resources. Maybe that's all you want them to do. Log on. Hey kids, I want you to log on, open up your Explore magazine. That's that one with the high graphics. It's really visual, very engaging. And I want you to read a particular chapter or a particular lesson. There's this great one about Pioneer Days or whatever it might be, and have your students read this. All right, that right there can provide so much easy access for them, really foolproof as well, using those tips that we shared earlier. If you want them to go to a landing page and look at the content that I explained and gave an overview of earlier, same functionality here. I can go to this, go to a chapter, I can go to a lesson, and it takes me to that landing page, which now, if you notice, now we're on this lessons big tab up here, which is what it had first taken me to. All right, and then there's the content. Again, a lot simpler because guess what's not there? The e-presentation, that was for you as a teacher, but here we are for you as a student. And then they can look at all these different chunks, these different pieces that came from the 3 different print resources, and we've put it all into this blended together landing page for maximum success, hopefully, for your students. All right, so I encourage you to really go online, begin exploring that, take a little bit of time, and I wish you certainly the very, very best. Finally, one last thing I want to leave you with is what you'll see right here on every student page, on every teacher page, is a reminder of Impact News. This is a current events website that we curate content and upload new content on the first day of every month. You can click and launch to it from right there. I always have encouraged people that I'm working with to just bookmark it in their main browser as well, like I've done right here. Here's the teacher side. This is the teacher side, and you'll see that there's 3 different grade level bands of content. All right, K1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. What we do is we add new content every month, and it's in 2 different categories. It's in the category of in the know and also in the news. All right, so let's go to just, for instance, grade 4 and 5. I'm gonna click on that. Here's the overview for this right here. And you'll see some highlighted topics right here. In the know, these are ideas and topics that relate to maybe the current time that we're in, the month that we're in. We're in March, all right? Or just what's going on. And then in the news is literally events that are happening right now and ways to talk to our students about them. Look at this one here right there. How does the government help in health emergencies? Something that's really obviously relevant right now, so you might check that out as well. So just be aware that there's content and we put it in the know, in the news. There's also content that's connected to science as well, in the know and in the news. So I encourage you to certainly check that out, and maybe that's another way of being sure our students are knowledgeable and active and engaged, even in this time that we're in right now, where we're maybe not at school. You'll see too, by the way, every one of those articles is in Spanish, and everything's always archived, so you can go back and check out from the past. Folks, I want to thank you so much, and I want you to, I just want to show you this one more time, but I want to wish you the very best. We're here to support you, and I hope this has been a helpful topic for you. Thank you so much, and all the best to you and to your students.